Before we go any further, if this is your first time watching one of our videos, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. Your support means a world to us, and it helps us bring you even more powerful stories. Stick with us till the very end. And if the story moves you, drop your thoughts in the comments and share it with a friend. Now let's begin. The heat inside the Golden Fork Bistro rose like steam from the pots simmering across the kitchen. It wasn't the pleasant, homey warmth that invited comfort. It was the unforgiving blaze of a battlefield where fire ruled and every second mattered. Plates clattered, pans hissed angrily, and the muffled shout of orders filled the air, creating a rhythm only the hard-working knew how to dance to. And in the center of that chaos stood Amina Yusuf. Her calm defied the storm around her. Her movements were steady, precise, almost graceful. But beneath her crisp chef coat were wraps of thick white bandages covering both her forearms. Burn marks hidden from the world. Anyone watching closely would see the slight stiffness in her elbows, the way she flinched when her arm brushed a hot surface, the tight when she tried to hide when lifting a heavy sauté pan. But Amina never said a word. Pain was a burden she carried silently. Her co-workers barely noticed. They had their own struggles. Customers never saw her burns. They only tasted the food she crafted with love. The only person who seemed to see her was a quiet stranger seated at the far corner of the dining area. She was there every night. An older woman with gray hair gathered loosely at the nape of her neck, dressed simply in a faded sweater and denim. She ate slowly, watching the room with an observing calm, her eyes lingering just a little longer on Amina. Most thought she was a lonely retiree passing time. Nobody paid attention when she scribbled notes in an old leather journal. Nobody realized she was studying the staff, not the food. At the front counter, the manager, Clive, stood tall and wide, with the swagger of a man who believed he owned the world. He barked orders away some people's breath, loud, sharp, and uninvited. And whenever his eyes drifted toward Amina, something darker flashed inside them. Amina, that plate's late again. You want us to lose customers. Clive shouted, slamming his palm against the counter. The kitchen staff stiffened. The waiters slowed their steps just slightly. Even the dishwashers turned their heads for a moment to watch. Amina didn't look up. Yes, chef. Sending it out now. That's yes, manager, he corrected, smirking. Don't get ahead of yourself. A couple at table 5 glanced toward the kitchen window. The woman whispered, She looks exhausted. Look at her arms. Are those bandages? Her partner nodded but shrugged. Probably kitchen accidents. Happens all the time. But they didn't know the truth. Not yet. Amina slid the plate onto the pickup counter, stepping back as Clive stormed closer. He leaned in, lowering his voice but not the malice behind it. You mess up again, and I'm writing you up. I'm not playing with you tonight, he growled. He brushed past her, his shoulder bumping her bandaged arm on purpose. She flinched. He grinned. From her quiet corner seat, the silent woman narrowed her eyes. She saw the flinch. She saw the pain. She saw the fear. Something wasn't right, and she was determined to uncover why. The dinner rush at Golden Fork always brought a pressure that squeezed the truth out of people. Some workers crumbled under it. Others hid behind fake smiles and quick apologies. But Clive, he thrived on it. Stress gave him a reason to yell, an excuse to intimidate, and a stage to perform his cruelty without consequence. The more chaotic the kitchen became, the more powerful he felt. Tonight was worse than usual. A line of customers stretched out the door, the air thick with impatience and hunger. Waiters darted in and out of the kitchen, carrying plates faster than they could be prepared. The fryer beeped relentlessly. The grill hissed under the weight of sizzling meats. It was a kind of night where teamwork mattered. But Clive made sure no one forgot who held the reins. Move faster, he snapped at a young waiter who hadn't even caught his breath. Wipe that counter again. I said spotless. Whose order is this? It's sloppy. Start over. Every barked order echoed, bouncing off the metal walls and settling like dust on the staff's shoulders. But his favorite target, the one he returned to again and again, was Amina. She worked silently, her face glistening with sweat, her arms trembling as she lifted a pot of boiling pasta. Her bandages darkened slightly as steam grazed them, But she didn't pause. She plated the dish with the skill of someone who survived by staying focused, even when the world pressed its thumb into her wounds. But Clive noticed everything. When the pasta landed on the counter a few seconds slower than usual, he stomped toward her like a storm in human form. "What is this?" he shouted, lifting the plate. "Did you forget you're supposed to cook food, not crawl toward it?" The kitchen went silent. Eyes darted between Clive's anger and Amina's calm face. She didn't look at him. Instead, she looked at the plate, a dish she knew was perfect, and waited for the moment to pass. "Yes, manager," she whispered. "I'll move faster." It wasn't an admission of guilt. It was survival. Clive leaned in close. Too close. "You might fool these customers with your quiet act, but I see through it. Don't make me put another write-up on your file." He straightened his apron dramatically, making sure everyone saw the exchange. Power was intoxicating, and he drank it all. But what Amina didn't know was the real reason behind his hostility. Clive had secrets, dangerous ones. In the office, the cash register logs never matched. Money went missing week after week. Receipts were misplaced. Supplier invoices were altered. Staff overtime hours disappeared between paperwork and payroll. And every time someone questioned the numbers, Clive blamed her. Amina miscounted the drawer. Amina forgot to print this receipt. Amina probably used the wrong keys on a register again. The perfect scapegoat. Because the one person who could barely hold a hot pan with her burn arms was the last person anyone would suspect of theft. Clive made sure of it. Back on the dining floor, the quiet woman in the corner, Evelyn, took another slow bite of her food as her eyes studied the kitchen window. She had watched enough managers in her lifetime to recognize a bully. But Clive was something worse. There was intent behind his actions, purpose, and the way Amina lowered her gaze whenever he approached, that wasn't respect. That was fear. Evelyn flipped to a new page in her leather-bound journal and wrote 2 words. Pattern notice. The pen hovered for a moment. Then she added, investigation needed. In the kitchen, Amina steadied herself against the counter. Her burns throbbed. Her breath trembled. Her soul felt heavier than the pot she carried. But she didn't know yet. Someone was finally watching for the right reasons. Someone who wasn't going to stay silent. The Golden Fork Bistro quieted just a little as the dinner peak tapered off, but the tension inside the building never truly settled. Not with Clive stalking between the kitchen and the front counter, like a guard dog waiting for an excuse to snap. The staff moved around him carefully. Too carefully. Nobody wanted to draw attention. Nobody wanted to be next. But Evelyn, sitting at her usual corner table, saw everything. To the staff, she was invisible, just another customer with too much time and not enough company. But she was more observant than anyone realized. Her eyes lingered on the smallest details. The subtle way Amina shielded her left arm, the deeper tremble in her hands when Clive walked near, the way the other employees avoided interfering whenever he berated her. Something was wrong in this place, and it centered around Amina. Evelyn lifted her mug of tea and silently watched the chef move. Amina stepped for a light, but strained, her posture straight yet fatigued. She winced when steam from the grill hit her bandaged arm, but she pushed through with a forced smile. She greeted waiters with quiet kindness, apologized when she had nothing to apologize for, and thanked people for patience when she was the only one truly showing it. But Evelyn noticed something strange, something subtle but telling. The burn marks weren't fresh kitchen accidents. She had worked in restaurants long enough to know the pattern of common burns. A splash from boiling water, a brief brush against a hot pan, a quick touch of an oven rack. But these burns weren't random. They were elongated, uneven in shape, stretched in ways that suggested pressure. Someone had held her against something hot. A chill crept up Evelyn's spine. She wrote quietly in her notebook, burns inconsistent with kitchen accidents. At that moment, a young waiter approached carrying a tray piled with dishes. He stumbled slightly, nearly dropping a glass. Clive pounced like an animal sensing weakness. "Are you blind? Watch what you're doing," he barked. The waiter stammered an apology, face bright red. Clive wasn't done. I swear this entire staff is useless. He muttered loudly enough for half the restaurant to hear. Except maybe one person who works hard enough. But even she can't seem to get anything right. Evelyn's eyebrows lifted. He was talking about Amina, but the tone, it wasn't praise. It was possession. Like he owned her struggle and could weaponize it whenever he wanted. Amina stood motionless by the stove, eyes fixed on the pan in front of her. She didn't speak, didn't defend herself, didn't even blink. She just kept cooking, as if pretending not to hear would make it hurt less. Evelyn wrote. She's scared of him. A few minutes later, Amina passed by carrying a heavy pot. Her bandaged arm twitched violently under the strain, and she bit her lip to stifle a cry. The pot nearly slipped. Clive saw it and smirked. "Careful," he said mockingly. "Maybe I should put in a request for baby-sized pots, since you can't handle the real ones." Evelyn's grip tightened on her pen. He enjoyed this. He fed on this. The woman at the next table leaned toward her companion. "Why does he always pick on her? It's uncomfortable to watch." The companion shrugged. "Power trip, maybe? Some people are like that." Evelyn knew better. Clive wasn't just abusive. He was hiding something. Something he was desperate to keep buried. And Amina, wounded, hard-working, terrified Amina, was tangled in it. The pieces clicked together slowly in Evelyn's mind. Her instincts, honed by decades of leadership and business negotiation, began forming a picture. This wasn't incompetence. This was manipulation, control, cover-up. Amina wasn't a problem for Clive. She was a threat. Evelyn closed her leather journal. Her eyes hardened with resolve. She wasn't going to sit in the corner anymore. She was going to find out the truth. And once she did, someone was going to answer for what had been done to Amina Yusuf. The night carried a strange quietness, too calm, too soft, almost as if the darkness itself was holding its breath. Mara felt it as she stood outside the abandoned marketplace, her heart pounding against her ribs like a restless drum. She had returned to the same place where everything in her life began to fall apart. And tonight, she hoped everything would finally come together. She glanced at the small camera in her hand. "This is it," she whispered. "No turning back." A sudden breeze brushed past her, lifting dust from the cracked pavement. The streetlights flickered with an eerie rhythm, revealing the silhouette of a man emerging from the shadows. Slow, intentional, and unbothered by the fear curling inside her stomach. It was Jonas, the same Jonas who had betrayed her family, the same Jonas responsible for fire, the same Jonas who had disappeared when her father lost everything. But tonight, he answered her message. "Mara," he called out casually, as if they were old friends meeting for dinner. Her fists tightened. "You said you wanted to talk. So talk." Jonas smirked. "You wanted the truth. I have it." Before he could continue, Mara faced the camera and whispered firmly, "If you're watching this right now, please hit the subscribe button. What I'm about to reveal is bigger than me, bigger than my fear, and someone out there needs to hear it. Don't miss what comes next." She lowered the camera slowly and turned back to Jonas. "Start talking." He approached, hands raised to show he wasn't armed. His voice softened in a way that made Mara's skin crawl. "Your father never told you the whole story," he said. "The land, the fire, the money. I wasn't the villain, Mara. I was the scapegoat." Mara felt her heartbeat stumble. "What?" Jonas nodded. "Your father owed a debt, a dangerous one. When he couldn't pay, they wanted property. I tried to stop them from burning the store, but they framed me instead." Mara felt the ground shift beneath her. The truth twisted inside her chest until it hurt. "You lied," she whispered. "All these years you let me believe." "I let you believe what kept you safe," Jonas cut in. "If you had known the real people behind the fire, you would have been dead before you turned 18. Mara stepped back. "Why tell me now?" "Because..." Jonas swallowed hard. "They're coming back. And this time they want you." Her breath hitched. She raised the camera again. "Listen, if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. I'm risking everything to expose this, and I need you with me. Please." Jonas took one more step forward. "I can help you," he said. "But once I tell you the last piece, there's no undoing it." Mara wiped the sweat from her forehead and nodded slowly. "Tell me?" Jonas leaned closer, his voice dropping to a tremble. "The man behind everything. The debt, the fire, the threats was not a stranger. It was someone inside your home. Someone you trusted." The world froze. Mara's heart cracked open. "Who?" she whispered. Jonas inhaled deeply. "It was your uncle." Mara staggered backward, her breath sharp and painful. The darkness around them seemed to shift, as if listening. "That's impossible," she said through clenched teeth. Jonas shook his head. "He's the reason you're in danger now, and he's already moving toward you." Mara's hands trembled as a camera light blinked. Her voice cracked. "Please subscribe so you don't miss the last part of this story, because what I just learned, what I'm about to do, might change everything." Mara ran. Her footsteps pounded against a gravel road as she raced toward the only place she thought she'd find answers, her mother's old house. The wind slapped her face, the night stretching around her like a warning. Jonas's final words echoed in her mind like a curse she couldn't silence. "It was your uncle," her uncle, Samuel, the man who raised her after her father's death, the man who hugged her at graduation, the man who told her every day that family was all they had left. She didn't want to believe it, but the truth had already cracked open, and she couldn't force it closed. When she reached the house, Mara stopped. The light in the living room was on. He was home. She lifted her camera and whispered, breathless, "If you're watching this, please subscribe. This is a final chapter, and I need you to witness it. Whatever happens in the next few minutes, I don't know how it will end." She pushed the door open. The hinges groaned, long, slow, painful. The familiar scent of dust and old fabric hit her. Nothing in the house had changed, except the man standing in the center of a room. Uncle Samuel turned toward her. His face was calm, too calm. "Mara," he said, "you shouldn't be here." Her throat tightened. "Jonas told me everything." He exhaled slowly, like someone whose lies had finally run out of places to hide. "So he talked. You burned the store." Her voice broke. "You caused everything. My father, my life, all of it. Why?" Her uncle didn't move. He simply clasped his hands behind his back. "Your father was a good man," he began, "but he was weak. He didn't understand the value of sacrifice." "What kind of sacrifice?" Mara demanded. "The kind that saved the family," Samuel said. "The land was worth more than his pride. I warned him. I begged him. He wouldn't listen." Mara's breath shivered. "So you destroyed him?" "It was the only way," Samuel replied without remorse. "The debt collectors were not people you negotiate with. I gave them the store so they would leave us alone. Your father resisted and paid the price." Mara felt the walls closing in around her. "And me?" she whispered. "Why come after me now?" Samuel looked at her with disturbing tenderness. "Because, Mara, you're too much like him. Stubborn, brave, curious. That makes you dangerous." She stepped back instinctively. Samuel took one slow step toward her. "You were supposed to let the past rest, but you dug it up. And now I have to finish what I started." Her heartbeat exploded into panic. She raised her camera again, voice trembling. "If you haven't subscribed, do it now. I don't know what's about to happen, but I promise you the truth, and here it is." Samuel lunged. Mara stumbled backward, grabbing the nearest object, a broken lamp. She swung. It connected. Samuel groaned and collapsed to his knees. "Run," he muttered. "And this only gets worse." But Mara wasn't running. She pointed the camera directly at him. "Say it," she demanded. "Say what you did." Samuel stared at her, sweat rolling down his temple. His voice scraped out, low and defeated. "I destroyed the store. I framed Jonas. I let your father die. And I would do it again." Mara froze, not from fear, but from the weight of truth finally spoken aloud. Police sirens echoed in the distance. Jonas had called them. Samuel looked toward the door, his escape gone. Mara lifted the camera one last time. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, because this story doesn't end with me. It begins with justice. She walked outside as officers rushed in behind her. The night air felt different, lighter, broken but free. And for the first time in years, Mara could finally breathe.